Magandang araw sa ating lahat. My name is Lara and together with Ivan, Genevieve, and Camille, we will enlighten you about the fifth module entitled Personal Characteristics of Members. So the very focus of this module is all about group size and personal characteristics. So to start with, group size. So, as we all know, groups are composed of individuals, each of whom has his or her own unique characteristic and idiosyncratic ways of behaving. It just means that lahat tayo ay syempre magkakaiba ng ugali. And that's the very point why we are unique, because we possess individual characteristics. And little we know that characteristics actually influence group processes by number 1, the characteristics of group members determine to some extent what their own behavior in the group will be and how others will react to them. Parang sintalititikatel, ang karakteristik ng group at siya ding refleksyon ng karakteristik ng isang individual. For example, a studious classmate can influence his circle to prioritize study as well. And number 2, a second way in which individual characteristics influence the group's behavior is a consequence of the particular combination of individual characteristics. Parang ito yung compatibility sa Fido theory sa Module 1 as well as definition ng group according to similarity. Example is, gamitin natin yung example kanina, may isa kayong friend na studious, tapos kayo magtutropa yung tipong takot bumagsak. O, diba? Ang ganda ng combination. Okay, so that is how individual characteristic influence the group process. Then, let's talk about what is the meaning of group size. So, for me, group size is a factor affecting group activity in terms of the extent of how small or how big a group is composed of. So, yung group size, minsan pwede siyang maliit o malaki, pero may mga katumbas na considerations at may mga katumbas din na advantages and disadvantages ang group size. So, number 1 here is the range of abilities, knowledge, and skills that are available to the group increases with increasing group size, as well as the sheer number of hands that are available for acquiring and processing information. So, ang sabi dito, mas maraming tao, mas maraming knowledge and skills na pwedeng i-share. O kaya pag mas maraming tao, mas maraming information na pwedeng i-process or gawing basis. Then number 2, the larger group also provides a greater opportunity to meet interesting and attractive others with whom interaction may be rewarding. So, meaning, mas maraming members sa isang group, magre-require talaga ng mas marami at malaking interaction na sa atin as human, having the instinct of no man is an island is somehow pleasurable or satisfying. Third bullet, as group size increases, organizational problems become difficult because of, syempre, factors like degree of intimacy and threat reduction. Mas malaki ang group, mas nagiging mahirap ang problem. Bakit? Take for example, kapag nagbe-brainstorming kayo ng friends or ka-groupmate mo, tapos lahat ng members gustong mag-include ng suggestions nila. Imbis na mapadali dahil may nabigay ng ideas, nagiging mas mahirap dahil kailangan mong i-include lahat for the sake na hindi masira yung degree ng solidarity nyo tsaka intimacy na rin. Therefore, sana walang threat na mangyari, di ba? Then next bullet, as size increases, relatively fewer group members participate in the group's activity and members are more likely to conform to normative group pressure. Tulad ng nabasa kong Roman history about Julius Caesar, 60 na tao nag-agreed na saksakin siya, pero in reality ang nangyari, 23 lang ang may palabra de honor na sumaksak sa kanya. So, what is the lesson learned here? Parang sa mga student activities natin, for example, 10 members ang na-assign para gawin ang isang task. Pero in reality, 2 lang ang gumagalaw. Joke lang, charot lang yun. And expect lang naman natin na lahat ng members magpa-participate kapag na-pressure sila na mag-conform o maging mag-participate. Then, a group formed in terms of unitary function, or baka dahil may regulatory mechanism or because of the type ng group nila. Like for example, kung ang group type nila ay task-oriented, syempre kailangan nila mag-participate whether they like it or not. Then last bullet, the optimum group size has been estimated to be approximately 5 persons. This depends upon the group task. For example, research group. Edi task-oriented yon. Group composition, kailangan ba ng certain positioning or specific ability para mabuo ang group, and other factors such as degree ng intimacy, interest, at attraction. So that would be all for the group size. So now that we have learned about the very core of this topic, let me give you a detour about the other topics regarding the group size. So we have here member participation to be tackled by me, leadership to be tackled by Mr. Ivan, as well as the member reaction, consensus, and group performance to be tackled by Miss Genevieve, and personal characteristics to be tackled by Miss Camille. So moving on, we have to tackle the first aspect under group size, called group size and member participation. So as the size of the group increases, the amount of time available for each member to participate in the group's activity decreases. Kapag mas malaki ang size, of course, ang tendency ay magkaroon ng crowding in terms of time. So, nawawala ng chance yung iba na mag-participate. Second is, the larger the group, the less opportunity each person has to participate in the discussion. So, mas malaki ang group, mas konti yung chance na pwede mag-participate ang lahat. Tulad sa example natin kanina sa brainstorming, of course, lahat may idea but it doesn't mean lahat ay mapipili. Then, third bullet, group members often feel greater threat and greater inhibition for impulses to participate in larger groups than in smaller groups. Mas malaking group, mas mataas ang fear of exposure na nangyayari sa stage 2 ni Tuckman, or nangyayari sa stage 2 ni Tuckman model. Then, compared to small group, kontrolado mo pa yung possible embarrassment or judgment to failure rather than big groups na mas maraming mata ang pwedeng husga. Last but not the least, as size increases, there is also increase in the proportion of communications that are directed toward the group as a whole rather than the specific members of the group. A good example for this is the flexible type of communication flow, na pwedeng one to many or many to one, pwedeng member to member or member to group or group to member communication, na nagdudulot ng mas malawig na pagkakaintindihan. So that would be all for the group size and member participation. Next would be group size and leadership, to be discussed by Mr. Ivan.
Group size and leadership. As the group become larger, the demands upon the leader's role become greater, and the more numerous and tolerance for the leader-centered directions of a group activities become greater. Group size also has an impact on the leadership effectiveness. The smaller the group size, the better the performance of the leader. Leader's actions is close to the team members, forcing them to work better, thereby raising standard for the leadership. But the disadvantage is, kapag mas marami ang member ng grupo, mas malaki ang nakapatong na responsibilidad sa leader to participate in the activity. Pero minsan, may mga members na inaasa na lamang ang task sa kakayahan ng leader. But the advantages includes availability of diverse skills to solve the problem, because large groups has open viewpoints that generate more solutions. Group is becoming more structured, and that the leadership role is being increasingly assumed by one person to exclusion of others. The role of the leadership is become diverse, because most of the members feel that they are excluded to one another. In one study, it was found out that as a group size increase, mean leadership scores decrease. The intensity of their interactions and bond decreases. Group size and member reactions. Members of a large group are less attracted to the group, experience great tensions, and are less satisfied than are members of a small group. Less of communications within the group that cause to misleading and misunderstanding. Sa sobrang dami ng ideya, minsan nagiging problema na kung ano nga ba ang susundin ng grupo na nagkakos ng great tensions. And dahil mas marami sila, member reactions are less satisfied than a small group. The lack of time of each member to participate, the increasing domination of the group's activities by one of or few members, and the increased difficulty of maintaining interpersonal relationship in a larger group obviously contribute to the negative feelings about the group. Because the time for participations of the members ay nababawasan dahil mostly few members are nagpa-participate sa group that obviously results in the negative reactions of the group members. The disadvantage of the bigger group ay mahirap i-maintain ang interpersonal relationship within the group. As size increase, group members shows greater disagreement. Mas madalas na hindi magkasundo sa mga desisyon ng grupo. Greater antagonism towards others. Madalas ang conflict ng mga bawat members sa grupo. Less tensions. Mas marami ang mga ideya na pwede nilang gamitin to come up to the solutions that can greater release the tensions. Members of a group apparently feel less personal responsibility for helping when more members are present. Kasi most of the members feel that they are less participating kasi may mga few members are frequently react on the activity. Just for example, parang sila na lamang din ang gumagawa kasi mostly of the frequently members who participate are mostly creative, flexible, and creative thinking.
Group size and consensus. So first, what is group size? Group size is an important factor that affects functions performed in a group. So smaller groups complete tasks faster than larger ones. And under the group size and consensus is one of the goals of groups is often the achievement of consensus. A committee cannot achieve its objective unless the members arrive at a meeting of minds. So in this, consensus decision making is the way of reaching agreement in a group. So don't need to simply vote for an item, but consensus group is committed to finding solutions that everyone actively supports, that everyone at least can live with it. On the other hand, there are pressures toward uniformity in groups that tend to produce more consensus and conformity to group standards in larger groups. Group size and group performance. So, how does the size affects Group size has a direct impact on group productivity and functions. So, it tends to depend on what variables we looked at. So, smaller groups are faster at completing tasks than larger ones. And the added resources that are available in larger groups contribute to effective group performance. On the other hand, the increased organizational problems and innovations of some members' impulses to contribute tend to decrease the effectiveness of the group. So, it is stated that the group's performance will be more effective if the group is just a small one compared to the larger groups and how they will perform. So, Really, the group size affects the group performance of a one group. The next one is the three categories of group tasks. Number one is additive task. So it is one in which the outcome is the result of some combination of individual products. Group performance should therefore increase with increasing group size. The law of diminishing returns appears to be operating with additive group tasks. So what is additive group task? So additive task refer to a group work where there is additional group member can add something to the output. The next one is the disjunctive task. Requires at least one person in a group be able to perform the task. Group performance is expected to increase with increasing group size, since the more persons in the group, the higher the probability that at least one will be able to complete the task. So in disjunctive tasks are those that only need one group member to be capable of achieving the task. In this can be useful method of spreading the correct answer around the members. And not everyone is obliged to do some part, because they can rely to the most knowledgeable member of the group. And the last one is conjunctive task, one which requires that everyone in the group accomplish the task. Therefore, the group performance is expected to decrease with increasing group size, owing to the increased likelihood that the group will include at least one member who is unable to complete the task. Last one is all about those where each group member has to contribute. So, by this, there is the requirement for full participation of the group members. So, if these are successfully completed, we could expect more group learning to take place. But the requirement for full participation increases the chances of group failure. So, in this, it means that the larger the group, the lower the probability that it will be able to complete the task.
Personality characteristics of group members. We have 5 broad categories or classes of personality characteristics. First one is interpersonal orientation. Interpersonal orientation is reflected in the individual typical behavior toward others in a variety situation. Meaning, interpersonal orientation does not reflect the actual behavior patterns displayed in interpersonal situation. Rather, it refers to the underlying tendencies to behave in certain ways regardless of the other person involved or the circumstances. And next is authoritarianism. Authoritarian person believe that it is right and proper that there should be a status and power differences among person. Ibig sabihin po is a person has authority if he or she can command someone to do something without having to do anything other than issue command, which is to say that the person who obeys recognizes the authority of the person who commands as legitimate or correct. And next is approach avoidance tendencies. The characteristics labeled cyclothymia, adventurous cyclothymia, and paranoid schizothymia refer to a person's tendency to approach or to avoid other people. Person who scores high on measure of cyclothymia tend to be cooperative, trustful, and adaptable. They prefer situation with involving interaction with others. And adventurous cyclothymia describes the extent to which individual-like people. And paranoid schizothymia refers to the avoidance aspects of interpersonal tendencies. And number two is social sensitivity. And social sensitivity, it refers to the degree to which the individual perceives and responds to the needs, emotions, preference, etc. of the other person. This sensitivity has been labeled empathy, insight, social judgment, and the like. It means social sensitivity is the skills in listening effectively as well as in understanding and reading the social situation, standards and rules the to behave well. And if ang isang taong mababa ang level of social sensitivity, he will have difficulties in interpreting others' verbal messages. And next, number three. Number three is ascendance tendencies. Ibig sabihin, meaning individuals vary markedly in the extent to which they wish to be prominent in group situation. The degree to without they assert themselves as the individuals, and the extent to without they wish to dominate others. And po. And number four is dependability. Dependability, the average group member is probably attracted to others who are dependable both with regard to personal integrity and ability and with regard to behavioral consistency. Ibig sabihin po ay to show that people can rely upon you. In the practice of teamwork, a team needs to be reliable. It needs to be able to rely upon all the members of the team for the work of their part. Dependability gains you with lots of appraisal, self-confidence, your team, or say your people will trust you with the work. And we have two dependability. First one is self-reliance and responsibility. A self-reliance and responsibility, for example po, nag, nag ano, cook his own meals and marunong kang mag-manage ng money. Ayan. And may tiwala ka sa sarili mo. Diba? Dun sa bagay po na yon. And next, unconventionality. The unconventional person cannot be depended upon to behave in typical or expected ways in relation with others. It is expected that unconventionality is related to other behavior that are important in group interaction. The last one is emotional stability. Emotional stability refers to a class of personality characteristics that are related to emotional or mental well-being of the individual. So, we have positive characteristics and negative characteristics. Yan. And meaning ng ibig sabihin po ng emotional stability means having a calm behavior whether a certain project in work has been deemed as a success or a failure. It is the ability to control his expression. And we have two emotional stability. First one is anxiety and adjustment. Ayan. And there are three kinds of anxiety that have been described and studied in relation to groups. First one is manifest anxiety. Manifest anxiety, level of anxiety that a person reveals at any particular time. Ibig sabihin, can be defined as anxiety which manifests itself without any underlying psychological problems, otherwise known as manifest anxiety. And next is test anxiety. Test anxiety, anxiety associated with test taking or with the evaluation process. Means is a reality. I am all too familiar with and with. In fact, I believe I experienced test anxiety before, during, and after each test I take. And the last one is state anxiety. That means state anxiety reflects the psychological and physiological transit and should be seen many thing situation.